A celebrated actor, superstar in his own right. His movies, whichever language they release, he becomes a slightly higher rated star and a heartthrob. Dulquer Salman is with us, and we also have a celebrated director, a storyteller, who's decided that let's break the mold a little. Now, why are they here? Because they have a movie which says Chup, and we're going to talk about Chup. So, Balki sir and Dulquer Salman, the conversation that we're going to have around, you've come to a news channel and you're sitting with a person who does debate shows every day, but I love talking movies. But we said, let's put some thought around this whole construct around what we're going to speak. So it's about, can critics dictate cinema? And then Balki sir added something before we went to roll. He said, who's going to rate the critics or call out the critics? So that's where the whole construct comes in. But serial killer, you're a heartthrob, I agree, but a movie which is around a serial killer who's out to get critics, how did you get into that? And you say yes to it, is it?
No, I think there's always this broader conversation around actors and, us playing to our safe zones or comfort zones and not breaking the mold or not pushing yourself. So, and the trouble is, at some point or the other, we get boxed in some kind of image that is kind of built organically. Or maybe we've done stuff that works for us. And invariably, you keep getting offered films in that zone. So on the rare occasion that somebody like Balki sir offers you something so out of the box, literally, you just jump at it, And I also believe that the audiences who watch me and watch my films give me the encouragement to really push myself, to try different things. Because I think they also want to see how much I can push myself. So I think it's also an opportunity for me to kind of discover my own range, to see if I can convincingly pull it off or have the conviction to play different roles in different films.
You jumped at it, or you jumped to say, me? Why me?
Exactly that. I was like, how did you think of me in this film?
So how did you think of him in this film? So Dhanush, Dulquer, so something to do with D's now as a trend.
I never thought of it that way. No, actually, if you see the film, because it's a thriller, so it's difficult to say exactly what in the character that...
Is he the killer?
No, watch the film to find out.
So it's a difficult thing to say, but very simple. I think he is a remarkable talent, and when you see the film, he's very humble and he's very understated and he's this. But he's the only guy, fundamentally, in any language that he works in, he's part of that language. He speaks, of course, all the languages, as well as anybody from that state or that language can speak. And secondly, I think his pitch of performance is the most beautiful I've seen. It's very understated, it's very casual. Even the most, deep and profound things, it's extreme casualness. It's very today, it's very pitched so right. And sometimes a lot of people do these understated stuff, but they don't have the throw. He has that understated thing with a lot of throw. So that's a very rare kind of quality, and he's one of those very rare actors in Indian cinema who's got that.
कॉलर वाला शर्ट पहनना चाहिए था डुल्कर ना, कॉलर उठा सकता था ना. देखो बाल्की सर क्या क्या बोल रहे हैं. But what do you agree? Do you believe that critics need to rein it in a little?
I think.
Does it worry you? Does it bother you?
No, not really. I see, more or less. Obviously, not to pinpoint particular critics, but if you take the average critic rating or the general opinion of a film, it's not very off from the actual film. And a lot of the times they're not telling us anything that we don't already know. If we feel there's a problem in the film or there's a problem area in the film, we already know this. And either we were not able to fix it for some reason, or we couldn't go back and shoot it, or somehow we identified it too late. But they're not going to really point out something we don't already know. But there are times when there's different agendas and people kind of go after certain films, or so those I think are a little insensitive, because it's a film is never belongs to one person. There's so many of us involved in the film, so it's disheartening if a film is being pulled down, even if you personally don't like somebody. It can be something as simple as that, like somebody just doesn't like my face, and therefore doesn't.
Or perhaps they like your face a little too much to get your attention. They just decide, let me just go after it.
That also.
Possible, no?
Yeah, definitely.
how can he be so good looking? And when is he going to give me some attention? Let me just pan him. Let me get his attention.
Yeah, I'm sure
Has that happened with you?
For sure.
Somebody comes after you just because they want your attention.
I think that is the case a lot of the time. At least that is the advice more mature, experienced people have told me. They're like, you know why they're coming after you, because there's obviously something there, or it's a way for them to gain attention or clicks or whatever it is.
Get your attention.
Yeah.
Okay. So you asked your dad sometime how to deal with this?
My dad's best examples are, there were some critics in the 80s who were out to get me, who said they'll finish me off and that he's done and all of this jazz. And he's like, and now I don't even know where they are. I don't hear their names anymore. I don't know if they're still around, but I'm still here. Now I'm sure there's some new critics after me. So it is true. I've been here 10 years. I don't know if it's the same people attacking me from the first 3 years or attacking me now. So there's something there. I mean, when you read it, you feel kind of picked on or affected. But you
read all the criticism. You don't just block it. You read
I
everything.
read everything.
You read everything.
I should probably block them, but
Doesn't affect you? Doesn't affect you?
I think it drives me. It affects me. Like, definitely shows my face. My family knows when I'm looking a little off, and they're like, "Stop reading." They don't even ask me questions. They know it's from my reading. But I genuinely think that's my drive. When people ask me how I'm juggling so many films, or like how I'm constantly working this much or putting out so many films, like this is my 4th or 5th release in the course of a year. I think this is the drive. And
that you do so much work that
Yeah.
they will not be able to criticize you.
I mean,
Something like
you
that.
can't criticize every film. No? Every film is different. Every role is different. So like, I keep giving them new things to pick on or something, or let them find something. But it won't be the same opinion every time.
ये इस जनरेशन का कीड़ा है. You must have really felt it, no? When somebody, I remember that line कि इस movie में चीनी कम है, something like that they had said, no? Remember? And I was like, कौन है भाई ये picture तो देख ले, उसके बाद decide कर
But
लेगा.
that's such an easy thing to say. No, it's like
No, but I'm just saying
like
that.
just play on the title of a film.
Correct.
It's like the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, but my point is that people who write it like that, on what basis are they writing it?
Because they'll write lots of things. They can say audience ne chup kara diya, chup ko. Something
हाँ,
else.
चुप करा
Anything
दिया.
they can say. That's the way they are. That's part of the fun writing. That is not an issue.
But is it fair that somebody who's not part of the movie process, somebody who's not contributed anything to it, can sit and perhaps then decide the fate of the movie? Is that fair?
You're talking of critics,
Yeah.
the professional critics. See, I think they have a job to do. They are professional critics. You're paid to analyze a film and tell people how to look at this film, what to like about it, what they feel it, and guide people towards and away from certain things. Because otherwise you just see the same thing over and over again. But what happens sometimes, and not sometimes, most of the time is, there are some critics, there are many kinds of people. Some people say, I'm watching it exactly like the audience. You're not supposed to watch it like the audience. To watch it like the audience, there is the audience. They don't need you.
Correct.
Okay, you're supposed to watch it from a different point of view to add value to what the audience is thinking or feeling. I'd either upgrade their level of entertainment or take it to a new direction or kind of expose them to newer things. Nothing like that happens a lot of times. And a lot of times what happens is you are almost writing and talking as if you are the judgment passer on something which doesn't belong to you. So you forget your job is one of responsibility and you you think of it as power. That reeks in the writing. What angers me is, hey, you just say, you smile, or even if you don't like some food or something, you say, nice. No, it's okay, fine, I don't want anything more. That's all you say. You don't say, now I've got the power to tell you whether your food is good or not. I've served you. And you're telling me I'm eating and saying, I will tell you whether it's shit or not. That's not the reason why I served it to you. I served it to enjoy. If you didn't enjoy it so much, don't eat more, say something politely. I'm not asking you to like everything in the world. No, you can't like everything in the world. You have to call out certain things. But there are ways to call out. And what generally happens is when there are mistakes made, they don't understand the implications of it. Because the mistakes sometimes, a lot of films do need critics to kind of tell the audience what the film is about. And if they go wrong there, a lot of people's lives can go for a toss. A lot of people's careers can go for hell, because this is the kind of funny industry where you dream of something. Everybody thinks life ends here. It's one of those things, life missions. If I don't succeed here, you can destroy careers. And firstly, very few people are qualified to criticize. Okay, chalo, we're not even questioning qualifications. You don't need any qualifications or anything here. Fine. You've come there. Think of it as responsible. Forget you didn't have responsibility. Suppose you exercise a power. There is nobody to stop. There is nobody to hold them accountable. They've got a publication, they've got a site, they've got followers, they're out there in the public, they call themselves a critic, and they've assumed that they are the supreme code of life. Who is there to stop them? My only thing is, you can hold me accountable. I'm not even saying write kindly. You please write what you want. But if you're wrong, who is there to tell you that you have damaged something? This is your punishment. You've punished me by killing me. Okay? You're laughing away, going to the next one. And you may be wrong. And you are wrong a lot of times. It shocks me how there is one profession for the arts which actually has no accountability, which dictates what the arts should be.
Okay, become an art student, just become a critic.
I would love to be a critic. It's damn easy. I mean, it's like, that's what, there is a line in the film, but it's easier to watch 500 films than kind of make one. And some people's dream job, there's a passion, there's a joy of watching cinema. The joy slowly transforms into a power, into some other political game. The joy disappears. Everybody comes into being a critic because they love cinema. They want to kind of see all kinds of. But when you start interpreting this innocent little profession, which is supposed to kind of take into some very, very maniacal stuff, it gets all warped up. And it actually affects a lot of people. It's not as innocent as people think it is. It really affects people.
No, so then how do you fix accountability? I know Chini Kam, you have yourself stated, when it started, the reviews, first set of reviews from somebody senior affected you. So how do you make that person accountable? Because the net result of the movie should have affected you positively, but mentally it affected you negatively because you were stuck on one review. How do you move from that? I can also turn around and I say, Balki sir, 10 log अच्छा बोले, एक बंदे ने खराब बोला, आप वो एक बंदे को लेके अटके हो. You are stuck on that one person. What about the other 9? So why can't you move on? Why should you get affected?
It's like asking, you're telling somebody who's supposed to create something to have a thin skin to create. All people are thin-skinned people because you're sensitive, you're getting feelings all. And suddenly you say, when you at your convenience, you say, no, develop that thick skin. How does one person have 2 skins? It's not possible, no, in life. So you're asking us to do the impossible. Understand you and understand myself. Oh, I don't even understand myself as well. How will I understand you and me? It's a difficult job. So I'm saying it's not my thing. You are responsible because the public, you're in a position to influence the public. Anyone who is in a position to influence the public has to be held accountable on the same terms as the terms apply to a lot of things.
Correct.
When you influence public, why isn't it applicable to them? Why are they getting away with it? Where are the do's and the don'ts? Why is everybody so scared that somebody is going to write badly about me? I'm not scared. I'm not against critics. I think criticism is damn important for all of us to kind of learn. It's damn. But the way it's going, it's absolutely wrong.
No, but yin and yang are two sides of the same coin. When you're getting into a creative process, you're making it for the public. So you are throwing yourself open to scrutiny, aren't you? So you're not always going to get accolades. You are going to get criticized. There will be those who will come out and pan you, Dulquer. So that's something which you have to accept.
As in, we need to be critiqued. We need to be told if we're going in the right direction, if we're convincing as actors or gave a convincing performance. I think all of that is important. But like Sir said, like it should, a lot of the times, I mean, anybody in any place of power, it can even be somebody who has to let you through a door or not. It can go to their heads, right? So it shouldn't be a power trip. And that is increasingly becoming so. If a critic decides he's going to finish you off, no, you can't really finish off somebody.
They make it a personal agenda.
Yeah, I mean, for something very silly.
You don't treat me well. You don't
reply to my message
out,
or something.
Good dinner.
You didn't read my text.
You didn't respond to my message.
Correct. You didn't respond to my message, and then you get upset. So I've got these interesting threats now. Wow, man. So sometimes I just don't engage. There's a lot of people I don't engage purely because I'm like, I'm here to work. I'll do my work now. If this is my only thing to do, it's never ending. You can't make everybody happy.
Not a PR professional.
Correct. So that's also
but some people, do they take offense?
Yeah,
Dude, he didn't respond to my text.
Now it's a little better.
2 picture hit हो गए, ज़्यादा अपने आप को hero समझ रहा है.
That is still okay. But for me, initially the problem was, who do you think you are, just because you're so and so's son?
Oh my God.
So they're already coming with this preconceived notion that I'm going to have
A star's son will
bad
have starry
attitude,
tantrums
that
and
I'm going to be
attitude.
entitled, and that I'm going to just be badly behaved, and I'm not. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not. I wish. If that made it more interesting, I wish I was that person. But so there will always be have a guard ready, or like on the front foot with me, and I'm just like, it'll be something very silly as, oh, you need to come here on such and such a date. We're to shoot you on the cover of this magazine, and I'm like, but I have shoot. No, but we are one of the biggest publications. I'm like, I understand all that, but this is a win-win. It should be a win-win for both people. Like, sure, me featuring on the magazine is PR for me, and me featuring on the magazine is hopefully lead
sales
some
for
sales for you.
Yeah, circulation.
But
for
can't
you.
we do it at the convenience of both of us? Then it shouldn't be this power trip that you tell me to dance and I'll dance.
Correct.
No,
I'm not
so
going to tell
bizarre.
you to dance.
Thank you. But bizarre things like this happen. Some are amusing for sure, but it would be nice if people go into critiquing anything. I'm not saying just cinema. See, if you are already decided, I'm going to only look for the faults, then you only see the faults. I can come into the studio and only look for the cracks, right? Or I can be like, it's bright and lovely and it's red and you're a great anchor and you presented so well. But if I want to find the cracks, I'm only going to be looking at that. I'm only going to be looking for that.
Yeah.
And that I feel like a lot of the times is the attitude with which people go into watch movies. And those reviews and those video reviews, all of that. Also, I think we as human beings are drawn to negativity. That's just a harsh reality we have to accept. You write, like good news doesn't really sell. Right? You need
Negativity sells.
Unfortunately.
You have to have a certain edge to it, and that too largely, even if it is
and now there's
bordering on
clickbait,
negative. So that's why you're going after critics, and it has to become a serial killer.
No, the question that you asked, very simple. As artists, you're kind of putting your work out there on the public domain. So obviously, it's subject to scrutiny. Of course, absolutely right. But as a critic, you're putting your work also in the public domain. Why aren't you subject to scrutiny too? That's all. The question is simple. Please be subject to any scrutiny, but anything in the public domain, please give us or anybody else a way to judge you. All we ask for is that. Can there be one thing that says...
a rating system for everything.
There's a rating system for everything. But the point is, critics can get away and say, listen, public liked the movie, like Andaz Apna Apna, and so many other movies which are there, panned by the critics, but became a huge hit. R. Rajkumar, everybody, what kind of movie it is? It became a big grosser. There are so many movies like that. A random masala movie, public went in, they enjoyed it, and then they came back because they wanted a random masala movie, and it just clicks. Some of them just click like that. Others, you believe, oh, it's a work of art, you must watch it, and it bombs. It just bombs. The critics give you a thumbs up, but the audience gives you a thumbs down.
But then they should also go to critique those films based on the genre of the
movie.
Now, if you're going to critique a masala film, then critique it along with all the great masala films of the past.
So how should we approach Chup?
Very simply, their job is not to figure out whether this movie will bomb or he'll be a hit. Their job is to tell people what the film is. It's up to people to decide whether they want to see the film or not. Why are you saying I'll give good reviews, only those I think it will work, which will work? That's not my job as a critic. They forget that.
Then you're not doing your job responsibly. It's coming with an agenda or a particular intent behind it. Now let's talk about Chup. Where did the idea come from? How is Gurudutt Saab somewhere linked to all of this?
I'll tell you, Gurudutt was one of the iconic names. Whose last film, Kaagaz Ki Pool, today is called a cult classic by the esteemed critics and a lot of the writers of cinema. Those times you should have seen the reviews of Kaagaz Ki Pool. They've said weak script. There's very crazy things about that stuff. We've only used the more polite ones. It's so harsh. And
it drove him to extremes.
It is crazy. Even if the film doesn't work, sometimes films don't work with the audience. But you at least live with the fact that people are appreciating your work. Yeah, sometimes it may not be enough for the audience. But you don't get either. Then you're going to get jacked a bit because you do live for appreciation. You do put out a piece of work for appreciation. Some way that helps you. And Chup actually happened because when I did my very first film, I didn't know anything about the way critics work and everything, so I just opened the newspaper like all people do, and I thought I'd make a good film, and I was panned by the most important critic in those days, and I went in depression. Though the film did well, people loved it, all those things happened, many people wrote wonderful things about it, but sometimes when you read it, and that's the craziness of being a filmmaker or any person, because you're not thinking so logically, and not so you're not in the resilience game. The resilience game builds up with a lot of people hammering you. So from that time, I just thought of this entire, how did this guy, he's got some agenda, of course he had other agendas, which I got to know about later, but how did this chap get away doing this in a major publication out there, a wrong thing, and he's written a lot of wrong things about it, which even anybody will tell you it's absolutely wrong, and taking off on somebody because of some agenda, and happily going to review the next film next Friday. And I'm getting depressed out here. He can't tell me consolation. It didn't matter. Yeah, your film was a hit. Abish, I'm still going through the depression. What are you paying for that? You don't get that. So that has remained in my head for a very long time. And when I wanted to do that film, then finally the lockdown brings out a lot of locked up emotions.
Locked up emotions, correct. So that's where. And so have you used anything from Kaagaz Ke Phool? Is part of the soundtrack?
Yeah. A lot of this, from Pyasa and Kaagaz Ke Phool, I've used a lot of tracks in one recreated. But yeah, it's just like a homage to a sensitive artist. It's just that.
Did you know that there was this element when you got into the script and the thought process?
The Gurudat element to the film? I think you mentioned it. Yeah, it was there. Definitely the core of the film was told to me, and but as soon as you start reading it, it's throughout there in the film. There's I love that about it. I think that's what kind of gives you a different viewing experience, because there's small references here and there to Kaagaz Ke Phool and to Gurudat Sir, and his songs keep coming and playing. So there's definitely a generation of young film goers who are not familiar with his work or the sounding of his songs. Like I know, for instance, a friend of mine, I was at his house, and he usually is always playing whatever's the most popular film or Punjabi music or whatever. And suddenly he's playing Gurudat songs. And I was like, and I was on the phone and started to play, and I was like, what? How come? He's like, no man, your trailer, like it just.
It's just playing on my head.
It's playing on my mind, and then I felt like I have to go revisit it. But at least he's my age. But the youngsters today, I think we're going to definitely open up a different side to. Of like music and movies to them. I think that I'm quite curious about that.
Soundtrack and lyrics from those days is a different
it's
level altogether.
It's, there's so much, there's definitely a phase sometimes where the sound recording quality is different from what we're used to today. The mids are a little high and it's not so clear. But I feel like most of the songs of Gurudat Sir and that era, it's very more focused on the voice and the melody.
Yeah.
It's not busy in terms of musical setup. So it's quite timeless. You can listen to it anywhere, any setup, and it's still easy on the ears.
Yeah, easy on the ears, and plus the words. The lyrics have so much of depth that it kind of just stays.
At the same time, it's simple.
It's simple, yeah. At the same time, it's simple. But let me ask you this. You're saddling multiple languages, multiple dimensions of the Indian film industry. Recently, there's been this thing tussle between South doing better than the North in terms of Hindi film industry versus South. Do you believe there is a difference? Is it scale? Is it story? Is it treatment? Or is it just understanding the audience a little more?
No, I've also been just privy to observe all the different industries, even my growing up.
Correct.
Maybe I never recognized I wanted to be an actor, but there was a deep love for cinema, and because your father's in it, you are kind of consciously also observing it as an industry and not just consuming the movies. So I've seen each of our industries go through good phases, bad phases, and sometimes there's a disconnect where we lose our own sort of identity. I've seen it. We're trying to cater to something that's working in another industry, or something that, or maybe, for example, in Malayalam, there's a period when bigger Tamil films are working. So suddenly we started making films like that, but not really telling our stories. It was always set in these border towns. People speak Tamil and Malayalam. It was these crossover. There's some phrase.
Trying to saddle two markets at the same time. Yeah.
But it wasn't. Not that we were pitching those films in Tamil either. It was strange. So we were a little lost there, I feel like. And then around the time I finished college, I suddenly see a new generation of filmmakers who started to tell stories that they understood out of their surroundings. And that started to really work, and that clicked. And I personally believe, this is my observation, that for that young group of filmmakers who decided to start doing realistic, or whatever, go back to that realistic cinema that we were famous for in the 80s, there could have been an influence of a Dil Chahta Hai or a Farhan Akhtar, and giving them that courage to be like, hey, I can tell a story of me and my group of people. So you know what I mean? So
yeah,
there are those influences
in the local
yeah.
flavor.
And then that grew and grew and grew and grew, and now we're definitely one of the most celebrated industries right now.
Correct.
But then you cannot negate the influences that Hindi has had on other industries. So wherever something works, we all look towards that side, and there are key learnings. And also there are times when there is a disconnect from what we're telling and what the audience is preferring to watch. What is drawing them to the cinemas. But this drawing people to cinemas is a common problem across all industries. Now what we're hearing on a national level are the best films across industries.
Yeah.
But every industry also has so many weekends where nothing's working. And we never talk about the films that don't work. Maybe the stuff that have not worked nationally have been some big, highly anticipated films. But at the same time, they're not talking about the films that worked, like a Bhool Bhulaiya or a Chup Chup worked.
Yeah.
And those are films we enjoyed, and we came to the theaters to watch. So I don't know, but again, we like interesting copy. We like to look at something in a negative light and put down one while praising the other. So it's very interesting to observe all of this. Sometimes in praising the other, are you also fully supporting that? Then suppose we make a bad film down south, are you still going to support that? No. People are going to still come to... I genuinely believe the audience always knows what they want to watch.
What they want to watch.
Yeah.
And they walk into a theatre expecting somewhere on the lines of what genre of film they're walking in to watch. So
but even before we announce a film, or a first look or a trailer, I feel like the audience can smell a film. I don't know how it
Correct.
is. It's weird.
It's quite instinctive.
Yeah.
It's quite instinctive, and very rarely does the audience actually go wrong about their instincts. And I totally agree with you there. And very well put your perspective. And I agree with you that a lot of times it's the success that gets talked about. Yeah. The failures don't get talked about. And somewhere it's all common parlance somewhere. What do you think as a filmmaker? Because you are also interacting with multiple industries. Do you believe that there is a bit of a creative hiatus or a pause in the Hindi film industry compared to the kind of content and what's being churned out from other film industries in India, largely the South?
No, I'll tell you really what happened during the lockdown, because there was no content being produced in a lot of places. People were kind of looking at a lot of content all across the country, and they discovered these gems that have always been there, or they were more recent kind of phenomena. Because sometimes, you have one spurt of something very good in this industry, that industry. So you suddenly had, they actually discovered Malayalam cinema a lot during the lockdown, the entire country. You see a lot of guys saying, I saw Ustad Hotel today, I saw something. So they've all discovered it. And Hindi was not producing a lot of things at that point, because there was nothing to produce. These were things that were there and people were discovering it again. But, and coupled to that, you had 3-4 gigantic, like a Pushpa was a freak hit. Not a freak hit, it was a damn good hit. A very enjoyable film. Like a KGF became one phenomenon. Then came RRR, which was a thing. But beyond this zone of talk, okay, there is nothing astronomical that's happened. There will be one Sitaramam, there will be one other film, there will be 2-3 other films like that. If you actually look at Hindi did not have those 3-4, like they didn't have a Pushpa, they did not have an RRR. They've never had an RRR, actually. So Hindi has never had an RRR. It's a global film, except for Dangal and Lagan somewhere at some level. I don't think anything has been that big. So I don't know what we're complaining about, and we've had equal number of hits like those things. But yeah, by and large, I don't think we've done anything breakthrough in some time. And I think the breakthrough, every time, when a breakthrough happens in cinema of any kind of nature, you kind of infuse new interest in cinema itself. That always happens. Like he was saying that there's a new set of directors who came and gave it a new voice. Any kind of trip that gives you a new voice there suddenly invigorates cinema. It's not so much Hindi cinema or whatever, it just makes cinema more exciting. I just feel it's going to happen. I mean, because Hindi, after lockdown, has taken a little time to kind of figure out the new economics of this entire thing. It's going to happen very, very fast and going to happen big in Hindi.
So the audience you seem now has sampled so much more content, it just seems to have refined its or perhaps expanded its horizon in terms of content sampling, and they may be expecting something. But we've got limited time, so I'm just going to quickly ask you 2 or 3 questions. One is this whole thought of free movie. What's this logic? Is it just in your face for the critics, or is it because you wanted to see what the audience reaction is before you release the movie officially?
It's meant for them. They have to see it first. Why is somebody who's not meant for having to see it before? We show every film to critics free. All our lives we've shown it. We call them, ask them, invite them, put them in this thing, and then they trash us free. At least show it to people who are really going to enjoy it and say, okay, they have no agenda, no nothing, please see it, everything goes. So we want an actual opinion of anybody without anything, because you'll know from the audience. They will like it, they have nothing to prove to anybody. And there are no equations out here. You don't even know a single person there. So it was an interesting exercise. And I also believe that any product, I mean, a cinema, I hate to call it a product, but it is in a strange kind of a way. You see a chair, before you buy it, you want to check. This is the only thing where you come, I won't show you. Pay the money. If you don't like it, too bad, go.
Too bad, go. Correct.
So it's a very funny kind of a thing. So I said, why don't we just discuss it and say, let's show it to people. Let them spread the word. Why can they spread the word?
But that's a huge risk, isn't it, Dulquer?
I don't know actually. I mean, also it's a very unique idea. It's a unique type of film.
So are you going to sneak into one of the theatres and watch it?
Ideally, I'd love to.
Okay, which one? We'll find out and I'll let it out. No, please, complete.
No, so it's a film that when we finished and we watched it and we all loved the film, but we were like, how do we market this film? Also it's got certain interesting elements that we can't discuss. So many times when I'm promoting a film, I'm like, I wish we could have the discussion post-release, because then you guys can tell me what you thought, or whatever. We can have that kind of discussion.
We can have another one. I'm happy to chat with you anytime.
For sure. So this is again one of those films, and but I felt like this is such an interesting idea. It came from Balki sir, and so obviously I was worried. I was like, but isn't it risky? Like, what if something leaks or something like that? But he's like, no, we'll obviously do it with a partner, like whoever's our exhibitors who are partnering with us. But then I was like, this actually is an interesting idea, because we'll get people to talk about it way before a critical review comes out or some ratings start coming out. And we're also encouraging the audience to leave their reviews and their ratings and their stars or whatever they want.
So just so that you can put up, saying critics said this, audience says
We'll
this.
never do that.
You're not going to
We'll never ever do that.
We're not going to do that.
But it'd be nice to see it from them first.
It'd be nice to see
That's
it from
unique,
them. All right, so we've got to wind up. But before we wind up, I'm going to ask you to just look down the barrel and make individually your appeal about Chup. Dulquer first.
Am I 1 or 2?
You're at 1.
Okay. To everybody watching, we have our film Chup that's coming out on the 23rd. In fact, on the 20th, 3 days before release for the first time. We're putting the film, showing it to the audience, to all of you, in 11 cities in India and also in the Middle East. To know your opinion, to know what you thought. You liked it or disliked it or loved it or hated it, whatever it is that you feel. And for you guys to share your reviews. There's going to be review walls at the screenings, and so let's see what you guys think. But for those of you who didn't get those tickets, feel free to check with your fellow viewers who got to watch the screening and take a call if you want to watch it. But we are really excited to share the film with all of you on the 23rd. It's as wide a release as we can make it. It's a film that is made with a lot of love. We really enjoyed making it. It's a fun film. It's nothing to go with any major preconceived notions. It's not a horror film or a scary film or anything like that. It's a little light. It does have a lovely story, backstory to it, and I think you'll connect to all the characters in the film. It's got some great music. So yeah, I cannot wait for the 23rd to see what all of you think.
Well done, Dulquer Salman. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get Balki sir to do it, and I'm going to come back and ask you to do the same in Hindi. That's a think of the lines.
Not a calculator.
Balki sir.
Yeah, Dulquer said it all, but please watch Chup and try and watch it on Friday at 75 bucks.
Oh yeah, that also. Cinema day.
Cinema day.
Cinema day.
Cinema day, absolutely. You want to do one in Hindi?
I'll
Small,
try.
Short, yeah.
सारे दर्शकों, मैं हूँ दुलकर सलमान और मेरी नई फिल्म चुप आ रही है थिएटर्स 23 सितंबर 23 सितंबर और 20 तारीख को हम एक फ्री स्क्रीनिंग दे रहे हैं 11 सिटीज़ में इंडिया में और आपको अपनी जेन्युइन रियल ओपिनियंस आप दे सकते हैं, आप रेट कर सकते हैं, आप स्टार्स दे सकते हैं हमारी फिल्म देखकर और वहाँ पे एक रिव्यू वॉल भी होगा और आप जो लगोगे आप लिख सकते हैं और पर हमें बहुत मज़ा आया फिल्म बनाने में और बहुत प्यार से बनाई है फिल्म बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कास्ट है मैं हूँ मैं खुद क्लेम कर रहा हूँ कि मैं इंटरेस्टिंग हूँ पर हम बहुत मेहनत लगा कि एक एंड आप लोगों को डिफरेंट सिनेमा चाहिए थी तो हमने डिफरेंट सिनेमा बनाई है फॉर श्योर तो ज़रूर देखिएगा और आपकी ओपिनियंस शेयर कीजिए जो भी हो अच्छा हो बुरा हो आपको पसंद आए ना पसंद आए बट हम बहुत एक्साइटेड हैं आपकी ओपिनियन सुनने में तो 23 सितंबर चुप
क्या बात है डुलकर सलमान पहले धीरे धीरे शुरू में इट वाज इंग्लिश टू हिंदी एंड देन इट बिकेम हिंदी इन बिटवीन समवेयर इट वाज अ लिटिल
एवरीवेयर आई हैव टू रीअडैप्ट
फिर उसके बाद फिर वो गाड़ी गियर में आगे फिर ठीक हो गया
दिस हैपेंस
थैंक यू वेरी मच
थैंक यू सो मच
लवली स्पीकिंग विद यू थैंक यू ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट फॉर थैंक यू सो मच
Thank you.